Okay guys, so I am here with the amazing Freeman. He is the guitarist and the singer of the psychedelic funk rock band RHOMBOID. I am here to interview him. So,
Great.
hi Ari.
How you doing?
Pretty good. You?
Yeah, I'm good today.
Yeah. So, first question, how did you guys come to be?
Okay, well, I've been playing music for quite a long time. I've been playing professional gigs since I was about 17. I'm now 36. So, I've been through lots of bands, but RHOMBOID came after a band I started in Christchurch called Lupus Luna with another musician called Dylan Hawes, who's now playing in Melbourne, although he moves around a lot. And that went on for a while, and we did an album with that, and we did fairly well. Yeah, after a while, people moved on. You know, one of our band members had a child, and Dylan wanted to move on to other things.
Yeah.
So Dylan went overseas, and then he came back, and he wanted to start another band, but this time I said, okay, but this time I want to do something a bit different. So previously we'd been two guitar players in the band, but Dylan said, I want to play bass, and I want you to play guitar and use some of that lead stuff you'd be playing, because Lupus Luna was the first band I'd actually played guitar in, even though I've been playing music since I was about 7. Before that I was a bass player, which ties in with the story pretty soon. So yeah, Dylan played bass and I played guitar, and we got a drummer called Oscar on drums who's on the album. Yeah, and he was a guy who worked at Music Works. He now works somewhere else. And then went for a little while. We did a couple of gigs, and then some things happened in Dylan's life, and he needed to move along. So I was stuck with this sort of band that Dylan had initiated. What do I do? So I thought I'd ask my favourite bass player in New Zealand to play, thinking he'd probably say no. Who's Mike Fudikowski, also known as Fud. Fud's been in a very prominent heavy metal band in the early 2000s called Cripple Mr. Onion, which then moved to Auckland, and they continued on with different bass players. And Fud, I was also one of Fud's very early bass students, and I was 14, or I was very young anyway. And Fud introduced me to a lot of things. He's one of the best teachers I've had in my life. So he introduced me to bands like Primus and a lot of funk playing and how to play slap bass. So for a long time I was the bass player in a lot of bands. I still am now and then. And I was playing lead bass and singing in a lot of different groups. An early group called Luge, another one in Wellington called Xenu, and then another band in Wellington called The Evil. And they're all completely different styles. I changed genre a lot. So Fud, much to my surprise, joined the band, and I was very rapt, but I was kind of terrified, because then I realised I had to get a lot better. Since then I've been practicing my ass off basically until I became a much better musician. Oscar moved on, though I'm producing his band August Fields. Oscar moved on to another kind of pop rock band. So I'm still good friends with Oscar, and we're doing a recording, though it's just in the early days. We went through another drummer. We ended up with a guy called Doug Brush, who's a little bit, again, like Fud, this absolutely incredible musician. He's an ex-Chicago session musician, and he's a jazz school tutor.
Yeah.
So
I think he teaches some kids at my school.
He's an amazing percussionist. So I've ended up playing in a band with two guys who are much older and more experienced than me. I'm fairly experienced, but they're beyond. And so I'm in this very privileged position of being trusted to write, produce and record these songs.
When starting out, who were your influences?
Okay. I started playing music when I was 7 on the trumpet. I have had a very convoluted journey through music. So I started on the trumpet. At age 10 I got into jazz, and that's probably when I started being very focused on music, quite young. And I particularly loved, at the time, Miles Davis, and especially a pianist called Thelonious Monk, who's still one of my favourites. And one thing that Thelonious Monk does, there's lots of humour in his music, and he's always tricking you. You always think he's going to go one way, and then he goes another way, and you think he's going to resolve a phrase, and he doesn't resolve it, or he resolves it in a strange place. And I'd always crack up laughing listening to his music. Other people would listen to his music and kind of go, I don't kind of get it, or oh, it's alright. But it would always make me laugh, but it's this sort of very intellectual joke, and I really fell in love with it. I think every band I've been in since has had the element of surprise in it.
Yeah, I noticed that
Yeah.
from RHOMBOID.
So I got into jazz, and then I picked up bass when I was 14, just because I wanted to try some rock music out. So I basically picked up the bass because I got a group of friends together and no one else wanted to play it. But as I started playing the bass, I realised that it's not the instrument people hear at the forefront very often. Everyone sort of knows what a guitar can do, but not many people know that you can play chords on a bass and melodies on a bass and slip bass and all these things. So I started getting really into the unusual sounds on it, especially through a band called Primus, I can't remember who introduced me to Primus. I think it was my older brother, but Fudd loved Primus at the time too. And Primus is a band from the start in the very late 80s, but most popular in the 90s, where the lead instrument is the bass guitar, and the bass guitarist is also the singer, and he plays extraordinary slap bass and tapping bass parts and sings at the same time.
Les Claypool.
And then I got into all sorts of alternative rock and things that crossed over between jazz and rock. So another band that I got very interested in is a band called Morphine, and they're a band with only a sax player, a bass player and a drummer, and everything's tuned really low, and they're very minimal, and I love the guy's lyrics, and I love the fact that he played an instrument that I copied here, which is called a slide bass. So it's got no frets. It's a cross between a slide guitar and a bass guitar. And he does everything with that. So he sort of created this framework around the band with limitations. And there's a sax player in that band who plays baritone sax and tenor sax at the same time. Now all of this sounds like a gimmick, but I really find their music very beautiful. The band's called Morphine, not based on the drug reference, but based on Morpheus, the god of dreams. And I've been fascinated by dreams my whole life. Then when I was 16, I got heavily into a band called Failure, which is quite an ironic name. And Failure produced particularly this album called Fantastic Planet that I think I listened to every day for a year, especially when I was overseas when I was young. And I kept hearing new things, and every time I listened to that album I learned something, and it's been 20 years and I still learn things from that album. And it's just the absolute complete depth of complexity. They put sounds on that album that they weren't sure anyone would ever hear. It made me listen to music differently because I realised there's this whole higher definition. It's got great lyrics, amazing writing. They produced it themselves. It was like the first album I come across and I go, oh, the band can be the producer and do an amazing job. And then later, although sort of all the way through, but later I got heavily interested in funk music, and it became a bassist. And then not until I was about 26 did I pick up a guitar properly. And by then I'd already studied jazz at jazz school. Got a degree on double bass as well, so another complicated journey. So far I've been through the trumpet, the bass guitar, double bass. I've also been singing all through this time, though I feel I took a very long time to learn how to sing well. I was in Wellington in a band called The Evils, which is an indie rock band. I was the bass player and the singer, and I was around at a friend's house, and I was annoying him one day. And he said, Ari, I think the next instrument you should buy is a guitar. And I said, well, why? I'm the bass player who plays guitar parts on the bass, and I've been in a band with 2 bass players, and I'm the one who makes everyone listen to the bass. And he said, well, every time you're around here you just pick up my guitar and play it in the corner. And it was one of those moments where one, I was annoying him, so I apologise. And 2, it was one of those things where people go, get over yourself and just do what you should be doing. So I started playing guitar, and then guitar slowly became my job. I tried to be a bass teacher for years and years. There's roughly 30 guitar players in my estimation for every single bass player. That's my estimation in New Zealand. I didn't really get to be a guitar teacher for a living until I started teaching guitar instead of just bass. So I teach guitar and bass, I teach some drums, teach songwriting and music theory and a few things.
So from being in like RHOMBOID and other bands,
Yeah.
and also being the Wizard's assistant,
Yeah.
the Wizard of New
Yeah.
Zealand, what is supposedly the biggest audience that you have performed in front of?
Possibly the two biggest ones was when I was at jazz school. I sang vocal bass in a choir, and we had a very ambitious music teacher called Susan de Jong, who's since moved on to Australia. And I was the only person in the choir who wasn't a vocal major, so it was quite scary.
Yeah.
But that she was trying to find men to sing. I'm quite a give it a go type person,
Yeah.
and I wasn't too shy. It was an 8-piece group, 6 girls and 2 guys, so there was a tenor and me being the vocal bass. I'm actually a bass singer though.
Oh,
I
yeah.
tend to sing a lot of tenor nowadays. And so we sang Christmas in the Park, so which is quite strange. Yeah, cheesy music.
Yeah.
So possibly not what you expected, but yeah, I don't know how many people go to Christmas in the Park. About
Yeah.
possibly 40,000 people or something. When I was in Europe, I played to 4,000 people in like a youth band type thing. Clearly, sort of the in New Zealand, the audience is smaller than if you're living in Europe or
Yeah.
something. So, yeah, here I tend to play smaller venues, but we put on shows. Did you come to a Beatles show or not? We'll decorate the room and we'll have lights and all sorts of things. If you look on Facebook, you might find some of those pictures.
Okay.
So I really love the show where, the type of show where you've got enough people that everyone's having a really good time and the room's full, but you can interact with any given person in the room.
Yeah.
That's what RHOMBOID is about. There's a lot of improvisation in there, so I can change what people want depending on what I see them doing.
Yeah.
So if they need to dance for longer, I can make the song longer.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of thing. Or if they need a break, I might change the song order, or yeah, I might pull the band down. So there's a lot of me conducting the band
Yeah.
in RHOMBOID and also Blues Professor, which is the other act I do.
When did you, we sort of covered that one.
That's good?
When did you start learning guitar?
Yeah, when I was 26 on a deer from a friend. And I could play guitar a little bit before that because bass and guitar are highly related. And when I was 14, my dad had a guitar and I learned bar chords, and so I learned how to play sort of grunge songs.
Do you want to tell us about your guitar rig and what guitar effects you
Yeah,
use?
so I think you can see it. So currently I play through a Vox AC15. This is an effects pedal board, and it's a mixture of things I've bought, modified and created. So the input goes in here. This is an electronic tuner. So obviously that doesn't change the sound. It goes through here. I play through a compressor because I play a single coil guitar. This one. This is my main guitar, which I'll explain in a second. It's got a lot of dynamic range. So for the purposes of RHOMBOID, because I'm the only guitar player, the compressor it sort of flattens the dynamic range so you can hear more of my picking and that sort of thing all the time. So I might not use the compressor for some groups I'm in. So that stays on all the time. It goes through here. This is a Vox wah, but I've modified it. I've changed there's a pod in here. So a wah pedal is a tone filter on a foot treadle.
Oh, yeah.
And in here is a potentiometer, which is basically a knob, but it's connected to the foot pedal. I've changed that. I've changed it to what's called true bypass instead of a buffered circuit. So it means that when it's turned off, the power just goes straight through. This is an interesting pedal. It's got 3 distortion pedals in one. One is just a clean boost. It just makes my guitar louder. So when I when I turn that on, it just pushes the amp. So if you were plugged into a Marshall, it would give you more Marshall sound. If you were plugged into a Fender, it would give you more Fender sound. I play a Vox, so it gives me more of a sort of Vox sound. This one is has a circuit in there based on a pedal that Jimi Hendrix used. Jimi Hendrix is another big influence of mine, especially an album called Band of Gypsies, which was pretty much his last one, I think, while he was alive. And it's called an axis fuzz. So the circuit's based on that, and that's named after an album access bolt as well.
Yeah.
This one's another fuzz. So basically it goes from clean if they're all off to slightly dirty if that one's on. If I turn that one off and turn that one on, it gets slightly dirty. I can demonstrate this in a second.
Right.
It gets to like a sound which sounds good with chords, but it's quite heavy.
Yeah.
And if I turn that one off, I have a lead tone that's quite distorted. And then because they're actually 3 pedals in one, I can turn them all on if I want and get a ridiculous amount of distortion. Cool. And then it has some secret tricks and everything
Yeah.
in there too. So there's a secret button. And yeah, and the knobs are all over the place. So this one belongs to that one. These 3 belong to that one, and this one belongs to that one. And it's for a secret function, which I might be able to show you later when I plug it in. Right, then I go to here. This what started life as a chorus pedal. It was about $40 on some cheap Chinese thing, but it didn't quite do what I wanted. Yeah, it's a bit mucky at the moment. It didn't quite do what I wanted, so I went in and changed some of the components, and now it sort of makes my guitar sound like a really grotty organ, which I really like. And this is a now quite ancient loop pedal, and also a delay. And in RHOMBOID I only use it as the delay, but I use the loop for practicing and all sorts of things.
Okay.
I swear. Cool. And the reason I've got this is quite a small setup. Used to use a bigger one. Is because I have to sing and play at the same time. There's a lot of sort of dancing on foot pedals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm sort of currently waiting to update this too. So this might not be around for much longer, but this is the analog setup I've had.
Would you like to show us more of the instruments that you have
Yeah.
created yourself?
Great. So this is the, I think I'll plug these in, and then we can actually hear them. This is my main guitar. This is my main guitar, and it's the one that you'll see me play in RHOMBOID unless I've broken a string. Then I'll pick up a spare. And it's basically all my favourite guitar sounds in one guitar. So it's very unusual to have 3 completely different style of pickup in one guitar. I was in a band called Lupus Luna, and we had 3 guitar players, and I built this guitar to fit in with that band, as well as to be a versatile instrument for all the stuff I was trying to do. For one thing, it's made of remu and maple, and the remu is from old floorboards in the house I used to live in. So there's these little nail holes here that I've filled in. So I like to use second-hand wood if I can. The shape is halfway between a Stratocaster and a Jazzmaster or Jaguar shape, which are the same thing. Cool. And the rest, otherwise it's my design. It's sort of a bit curvier, right? So some of the features of it are, firstly, it's got a strat pickup in the bridge. One of my favourite rhythm guitar sounds. So a lot of the time I'm on that one. This pickup is an old pickup from a Teisco, which is an old Japanese brand. Okay, and you can hear it's got a bit more mid-range. Some of that's to do with the position it's in, and some of it's to do with the type of pickup it is. This is a pickup from a Jazzmaster, Fender Jazzmaster. This is more of a surf. So it's more that jangly sound. It's also a really good sound for cutting through to make lead tones, which I'll do in a second. Right, one of the features of this guitar is on a Stratocaster you've got 3 pickups, and you've got a 5-way switch. So you can have that one on, those 2 on, that one on, those 2 on, or that one. But this has 3 switches. So the first thing is I can turn any pickup on, or have the guitar off, in any position, or I could turn any combination on. So that's those 2 on, which is good sound for funk. Cool. Or we could have those 2 on. And then I could have all three on, which you can't do on a string. Then, if I have these on in the opposite direction, it's out of phase. That doesn't do anything until you've got two pickups on. So if I've got these two on, in phase, they're both pointing the same way. Then if I put them out of phase, I get this sort of radio squished sort of thin sound. And when I was in the 3-guitar band, that was extremely useful. Like, other people would be making a lot of noise and I'd find just this tiny space to pop through the music by filling with my pickups, and I'd pop through there. And if you've got a guitar that doesn't take up too much space, then it's actually easier to be heard, because you can turn yourself up louder without getting in other people's way. So this guitar has 13 sounds with 3 switches. So okay, so those have all the combinations of in phase, and then you can put on out of phase, out of phase, out of phase. I can't remember how many I've been through, but it's tons. So it looks inconspicuous, just 3 little things. So it's a very efficient way to have a lot of sounds. Otherwise it's just the volume and a tone knob. It's a very, very bright guitar, so I need to use the tone knob a lot. Here's the compressor. Without it, I just have it on all the time, but without it, there's my quiet sounds, my loud sounds. Now there's my quiet sounds, my loud sounds. So there's less difference between my quiet and loud. So one thing I like about the wah, I think it's probably my favourite pedal, is there's so many sounds you can make on it. Now most people are used to just tapping their foot, so you can turn these sounds into a percussion instrument. Or you could do accents. Hide that with a chord. Cool. The other thing you can do with it is a slow sweep. Kind of a flutter effect. It's really nice for spacey sounds. And then I really love the way it interacts with the whammy, with the whammy bar. So whammy bar loosens the strings and lowers the pitch, but I really like the sound. It's like a guitar talking. Here's the distortion pedal, so this knob makes the guitar louder. If I have the amp set just right, it pushes the preamp of the amp just a little bit over the edge, so it's really, really clean. It's just the absolute beginning of dirty. If I turn that up, I could really push that amp with it. Cool. So we've got that one, we've got... This is my heavier distortion sound. I'll use that for some leads. One thing I like about it is you can still hear all the rhythm information, and it sounds good with chords. Some distortions, which we'll see in a second, really mush the chords up. This is more distorted. So that would be for my louder lead solos. No, I don't do this much, but I could combine the boost with the middle one. really sludgy sound, or I could combine that. Or I could turn them all on. Which should give me a really, really long sustain. This one I call it the wobble pedal. It's supposed to sound like a really cheap old organ. There are lots of these sort of organ sounds in the 60s. And a lot of my music's influenced by 60s music. So we don't have a keyboard player in the band, but there's lots of keyboard-like sounds, as you noted in your review. Some of them come from the guitar, and some come from Fudd's right hand, and Fudd plays a lot of effects on his 10-string bass too. Use it as a loop pedal if you wanted. So I could use any of these. That gets used for practicing a lot, and writing. I might write a riff and then figure out how to sing over the top of it or how to play solo over the top of it. It's called, it's got a name, it's called Coagula. I'm very interested in alchemy. Alchemy is historically what came before science, and it's simultaneously a philosophical system and a system for understanding the world. And there's this term in alchemy called solve et coagula, and my interpretation of that is that they're talking about, amongst other things, creativity. And solve is where we get the word solve from. It means to take something apart to understand it. And coagula is where we get the word coagulate from, Latin. And that means to put things together or to harden or solidify them. This guitar's called Coagula because it takes my ideas and puts them in a form I can share with other people. So I like that as a symbol. Cool. Some of which are on the RHOMBOID recordings, but I don't get to use them live much because we're usually a three-piece. This is a sister instrument. It's also made of remu. This one, I think, came from parts from an old bed. This neck came from a Dan Electro neck, so I made the body on this one, but not the neck on the other one I made for. This is called a bass 6. Got no idea if it's in tune. It's not too bad. And it's a guitar that's an octave lower. Lights on, that's why it sounds strange. Oh, so it's a guitar that's an octave lower, and you can use it for really. Sometimes used to double the guitar an octave lower, and then Fudd will play 2 octaves lower. There's some of our songs are doing that. So it's just hidden there. I don't get to play it live very much. It can play. Can be used as a bass. Can be used as a low guitar, and can play chords on it. And they sound really thick compared with the guitar. It's got 2 outputs, so I could send it to a bass amp and a guitar amp at the same time. And one band I was in before RHOMBOID, I used this as the bass, but I could sort of play guitar parts and bass parts at the same time a little bit. Cool. That one's called Caduceus. Caduceus is the staff of Hermes, and Hermes is the god of magic and communication. But this one doesn't have a name, but it's the first one I made. If I can find the other end of this cable. which is why it's a little clumsier built, but it is a really well playing instrument. Here we go. So when I'm a bass player, I play this one a lot. Bass. Something interesting about this one, this is a short scale bass, so most basses are 2 frets longer. Short scale basses have a slightly different tone. They're a bit thumpier, a bit bassier, and they have a note that gets created and disappears a little quicker, which makes them really useful for playing along with a kick drum and all that sort of thing. And it means you can stretch a bit further too. Cool. So sometimes I like this one. I have an Ibanez bass that I use, which is an ordinary scale length too. And the 6-string bass I showed you before is also a short scale. So that's that one. And then there's the most unusual one, and that's what this one is. The bass player and singer and songwriter in Morphine was a guy called Mark Sandman, and Sandman was is a god of dreams. Cool. So we got horizontally, it only needs the 2 strings. They're both tuned to, they play a power chord together.
Is it C and G?
Yeah, I think it's C and G at the moment. Yeah. No, it's B and F sharp at the moment. Yeah, I tune it to different tunes. I play a lot of blues as well, and I play in another act called Blues Professor, which is a one-man blues band. And this is sort of based on an instrument called the diddley bow. Have you ever come across that?
No.
The diddley bow is kind of a toy instrument, though some people play it as a serious instrument, where you get a board of wood and you basically nail a string to it and you play it with a slate.
That's cool.
So if you look up diddley bow, it's also where the famous guitarist Bo Diddley got his name from. Yeah, and he was an early rock and roller.
Is there anything else you would like to mention about the bands you've been in the past?
No, I've been in a lot of bands. I've been in so many bands I have no idea how to count them all. I've played everything from heavy metal to punk to jazz to restaurant gigs to everything. In this country, if you want to be a professional musician, you really got to diversify. So to earn a living from music, I am a guitar teacher, a bass teacher. I teach some drums. I play gigs on guitar, bass and drums. I play weddings, restaurants, live gigs, themed shows, dances, originals shows, support for other bands, festival. I record music, so I'm recording other bands a little bit. I mostly record my own music. What else do I do? I arrange music, I teach music theory, and yeah, I'm a singer, a guitarist, a bass player and a drummer.
Cool.
So it's taken a long time to get all that sorted out. I probably bloomed quite late compared to people who stay on one instrument and get really good at it. Yeah. But it means that when I write music like Rhomboid, like in Rhomboid, when I write the songs for Rhomboid, I'm really thinking about how everything's going to fit in. I've got a real vision of a place where the bass is going to fit, and a place where the guitar's going to fit, and the guitar's designed to not get in the bass's way, and vice versa, and so everything sort of works around that. Okay.
So what were your goals when you were starting to like become a musician?
Well, I don't know if I really knew what I was doing, except my goal would have been to earn a living from it, which is something you're often told you can't do, because most people, a lot of people, there's a lot of artists out there who have day jobs, and you're often, it's quite a hurdle to get over to start making a living from the art that you do. But that doesn't mean it's impossible, and I'd really urge to people, if you want to do it, the best quality you can have is don't give up.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I became a wizard is I became a musician, which is something I've been told a lot of times, oh, you can't really do that in New Zealand, be a professional musician, there's only a handful and they really struggle and it's a hard life. Well, it turns out it's an extraordinarily fun and fulfilling life. And it's not too much of a struggle when you factor in all the difficult things people have to do. It's self-motivated. It means that you have to be your own boss and you have to keep going no matter what, and no one's going to tell you off if you don't. You're just going to end up poor. So you've got to self-motivate. But it means that all the things you do, you get the rewards for. You're not earning money to make someone else rich. Like everything you do is for your own reputation. So I think it's in some ways it's a better life than what I was living before I was a musician. Cool. But don't give up, basically. Keep going. A lot of the reason why I can be a professional musician is that a lot of people who were better than me gave up. And I didn't give up.
How did your band settle on Rhomboid as a name?
Oh, well, that's a confusing one. Okay, so rhomboid's a particular shape. It's like a parallelogram. It's a bit like a squished rectangle. But band names are really hard to come by democratically, and I possibly should have just come up with the name. But we had a name before that when I started the band with Dylan, and I wanted to change the name because I really felt the name that had been changed. Well, last time Dylan and I were in a band, I chose the name, so I let him choose the name. But then he left the band. And I really wanted the name to represent the people who were in it. But we got a little stuck, possibly, because usually what happens is I come up with a huge long list of possible names and then get people to vote on them. But it's a bit like trying to decide how to get which restaurant to go to with a group of friends. It's like often no one gets to go to their favourite restaurant. Yeah, Rhomboid, like, Oscar really wanted to call it rhombic or something like that. So Rhomboid was a compromise between what Oscar wanted and what I wanted, but Oscar's no longer in the band. So I'm a little bit stuck with the name, but people seem to like it, so I'm going to stick with it.
Are you guys planning on releasing any other albums or new songs?
Yeah, first before releasing I have to record it, but there's about an album's worth of songs that I would really like to get recorded this year. So I'm going to try and I've got one more gig to fulfill, then I'm going to take a break from playing live and try and get the songs recorded, and they're a little bit different to the stuff on the last album. So I'm not going to explain too much, but it's going to come out at some point. But they'll be released online, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how it gets done. It's hard to know whether to release an album nowadays or to release song by song, but I think I'll probably do another album.
Is there any upcoming gigs you would like the viewers to know about? Yeah,
so there's one we've got at the moment. We're going to do a funk gig where we reinterpret famous funk songs on March the 26th. That's part of the Jazz and Blues Festival, and that's with another act called Soulmates. So I think if you look up Soulmates and the Jazz and Blues Festival brochure, you'll find that.
Is there anything you would say to somebody who's considering picking up an instrument?
Yeah, well, it's a very worthwhile thing to do for a couple of reasons. I know I teach music, so I've got a lot of students that range from, and I've taught people aged 6 up to 80, the early 80s. Something very special about music is when you're really engaged with music, it engages your whole brain. They've done neuroscience on this. So it's what I would call a transcendent exercise, meaning when you're playing music or listening to it, really engaged and you're really focusing on it, you're not thinking about the past and you're not thinking about the future, you're in the present in a real moment. And we're not in the present in a real moment very often. And that's one of the reasons why I think music is literally magic. If I want people to dance, I just have to play the right songs.
Yeah.
And the songs are like spells that make people dance. That's how I see it. And by seeing it that way, I'm focused on making them dance, so they're more likely to dance. So there's that reason I think music's good to get into. If you, I have a student who's a psychologist, and it's a big heady job, and she plays guitar, and it helps her relax. And a lot of the people I've come to help taught ambulance drivers and all sorts of people with stressful jobs, or people running building sites and things, and they all say that it works like meditation. 2, I think young people should get involved in music, and sometimes parents come to me and go, oh, should my young person get involved with music because they might get too involved and then they won't earn any money. And I said, look, if you can play music well, you can go anywhere in the world and jam with someone and become their friend. You don't even have to speak the same language as them. So there's something you can do. It's a social activity. There's so many musicians I know who are incredibly shy, unusual people, and music's the thing that saved them socially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a couple of reasons to learn. And then, it's also an art form and a way to express yourself. It's a way to share your creativity with other people.
Yeah.
That's the reason I do it. More so even than to express myself, I do it to engage people in a group and give them a good time. That's my main drive.
Is there anything else you would like to say to like any viewers who are watching?
I don't know. Figure out what you want to do, which can be a hard decision, and don't give up.
Yeah.
And don't let anyone tell you what's impossible unless they've been someone who's tried it.
Okay.
Okay, only listen to people who've tried the things that you want to do, and listen to them very carefully. But if someone says, no, you can't do that, go, well, think to yourself, have they really tried it? Because a lot of people voice their own fears and reflect them onto, especially the young people, right? So I think, figure out what you want to do. If no one's tried it before, then how do you know if it works or it doesn't unless you try it?
Yeah. So thanks for agreeing to do an interview.
Yeah, it's fine, Dylan.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, then like the video. See you guys next time.